How's it going? Embers
Hey.
Podcast here. I'm joined today with Mel and James, but he's not with us right now. He'll be in and out throughout the podcast. Oh, here we go. How you
Here I
going,
am.
Mel? How you going, James?
Yeah, good, Dustin. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. Good day off for me.
Oh, jealous.
What about you, James? What's been happening? Same. All right. I'm going to get into the episode. A bit of a shock episode this time. I don't think anyone really predicted what was going to unfold tonight on Wednesday.
No, we always said it would be a smart move, but we didn't think it would actually happen.
Yeah.
No, I predicted it. I just wasn't on the podcast to say it.
Oh, of course.
Oh.
I thought it coming an absolute mile away. So when I heard your predictions last week, I just chuckled on the inside.
All right. We'll get on with the episode. At the beginning of the episode, we get a little bit of a debrief on the Shan vote. Everyone's just comparing notes. Nick brings up how, they think that he had two idols, and he knows that he definitely had one because he saw it. I think Andy's just trying to get the information straight. She seems to be asking a few questions at the start.
Yeah.
We do see that the rain is starting to kick off now. We went from being what was like super sunny, and now it's pissing down rain. And it's just right before we get into the first individual immunity challenge. Do you want to run down the immunity challenge, James?
Yeah. So the challenge I was a big fan of. So essentially, everyone's having to balance on like a milk crate, but then they're also having to have like this little pole with like this flat wooden bit on the top and have to balance like a tennis ball on there and holding their hands within certain sections. So, I thought this was a great challenge. I was a big fan. It's my sort of challenge, I think.
Yeah. So, it's a fairly simple challenge. There's not much involved, but it's definitely a challenge that you would see on your American type seasons these days. So I'm happy with it. It's nice, gets the ball moving. Immediately as the challenge starts, Nick's ball is already wobbling around. It takes him probably 10 minutes to get it settled.
Yeah.
Andy drops within seconds of the challenge.
Yeah.
Which is kind of becoming a bit of a what's the word?
Trend.
Yeah, a bit of a trend for Andy to kind of flop out of the challenge. And at the end of the day, Liam comes up trumps with the and what I thought was a bit of a must win for either Lily or Liam.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would have ended up mattering due to the result. But what do you think of Liam winning this challenge, Mel?
Yeah, I think he definitely needed it. Whether, as you said, like whether or not he won the handbag of protection or not, and Tyler would have still gone, who knows? But it did look like leading into the challenge that he was going to need it the most. Outside of him, it would be Lily. I did laugh when Lily just had no idea where her hands were and she wasn't in the right section of the bowl. So she got disqualified, which was a bit of a bummer. It did seem like Liam needed it at the time. So, yeah, I mean, even if you didn't need it, it's always a good win.
Yeah, definitely. What tactic would you use for this, James? Is there much of a tactic or?
I agree. It really just depends. It's really a case of like, hey, does this suit someone that's bigger hands better, someone with smaller hands? I don't think there's any perfect tactic. It's just really about concentrating, and just and not not losing that concentration for a split second, because as we saw, it cost that cost a couple of people.
Yeah, and you saw after the challenge when they were back at camp, they were actually talking about how difficult it was and like their strategies. And Nick said at one point, like as soon as he looked at his hands, he lost control of the ball. And then Liam said that his strategy was to just constantly look at the ball and slide his hands down the pole, trying to feel where the tape was, which I thought was a really good strategy.
Yeah, well, it seemed to pay off at the end.
Yeah.
We move on to the pre, a bit of the strategy before the vote.
Yeah.
One key thing that I noticed, Kyle finally gets a confessional.
Woo! Mystery Man speaks. Woo.
Yeah. And a big thing we get clarification on is he actually was working with Sean. Sean was his ally. He seems to be a little bit out of the mix. He's not exactly in on the loop of things. He's just kind of sussing out who might be in control, and he pinpoints perhaps Liam and Tyler are the ones pulling the strings. Whether he's right, Tyler definitely. Liam seems a little bit less likely to be pulling any strings. What did you think of Kyle's take, Mel?
Yeah, he did say even though he did finally speak, he's a man of few words. He sounds like he's just away with the pixies at times. Like, God love him. He's so like relaxed. But yeah, he was talking about how he thinks that it was Tyler and Liam, but then right at the end he does say or pinpoints Nick.
He does.
Yeah, Nick being really sly, and he thinks that Nick is playing those two. So he thinks Nick will go pretty far. You can the confessional was a bit choppy, and, he did that classic cast member answering a question without repeating the question. So we didn't fully get the answer as to what he was saying, but I gather what he was talking about was who he thought was going to win. And he says, originally I thought maybe Tyler or Liam. They're super cluey and very strategic, but Nick is pretty sly, and I reckon he's playing the other two and that he'll go pretty far. So I think that's his predictions for wins.
Right.
100%. But yeah, it is kind of like he, and I can't remember his pre-season notes. Did he say whether he watched much Survivor? Because I get the feeling like he doesn't really get the game and doesn't really understand the strategies, and he's really kind of learning as he goes along.
I don't think so. I don't think he's really much of a fan. I think like his favorite player was Roscoe, which doesn't
he's probably watched a couple of seasons of
super fan to me.
Yeah, and he did say, and I think he's probably just said that because he knows Roscoe's a surfer.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, interesting. Later on, after his confessional, when they're back at camp, they would again started to talk about when the talk turned to Tyler. He was talking about like following Andy's conversation about what a great game Tyler was playing, and basically just sort of said, "Oh, I get it. Like, if we go for the top of the hierarchy, blah, blah, blah." So you can see like he's just starting to understand strategy.
He's like learning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. With that in mind, you talked about how Kyle brought up Nick as being a pretty sly player. Yeah. There's actually a few people that mentioned Nick as being a sly player in this little segment. I think Lily points him out, and Tyler definitely says that Nick is playing a smarter game than he is putting out that he's playing. Yeah. So people are onto Nick for sure at this point. I think he's got a little bit of a target on his back. Yeah. But yeah, we'll see where it goes from there. Obviously, the obvious target for this boot seems to be Lily. If Orange wants to stay strong, they can easily put the votes on Lily. They're not aware that she does have an idol. Yeah. They actually this is probably a bit of a misstep on Tyler's behalf, but she doesn't actually plan any contingencies for this one.
Yeah, and she basically calls out that she doesn't have one, like
Yeah.
with certainty, like absolute certainty, but that she's probably looking for one now. So it was pretty good strategy from Lily to. I mean, it was pouring at that stage. So
Yeah.
because she's still. There's nothing worse than when you've got an idol, but you have to pretend like you don't have one, and to have to go and look when it's that, like, it was pouring at that point.
Yeah,
so
it was. Yeah.
Props to her for actually like still getting out there and looking.
I agree. What do you think, James? What do you think of Tyler's decision of trying to put all the votes on Lily for this vote?
Yeah, I think if you're Tyler, I mean, it's definitely because like Liam didn't really, especially because Liam really, I think it was more important to have a consistency. But because Liam did, I mean, the easy one would have been, do sort of Liam and Lily, but they couldn't do that, obviously. But I guess if Liz trying to initiate something, but but if you're everyone else, I mean, it doesn't really matter as much because Tyler is the contingency.
Yeah. So, like, from my point of view, I think if you're in this position, if there's only 6 players and you're at the top, you kind of need to play more aggressively as opposed to passively. I think she's attempting to play passively here, but she doesn't realize that everyone is going to start turning on her in a second. Whether that would have worked or not, whether she could have moved the target somewhere else and everyone would have been on board with that, we don't know. But that's just my thought.
Yeah, earlier in that, before the Kyle confessional, I think they were, or maybe it was when Kyle was at confessional, they actually started talking about Kyle as an option. Tyler did point out, like, he's what she perceives to be the people's champion, and that he's so strong in challenges, and that, if she was in the jury, she would vote for him. So I feel like she did try and do a contingency plan, but obviously we know how quickly things move in the game. So, at what point things started to change, I don't know. But, yeah, it's the first time actually at Tribal where she legitimately looked scared. I didn't pick it up first watch, but on the rewatch tonight, like, you could just tell that she knew she was in trouble.
Also, at the same time, though, yeah.
James? So I do want to bring it back to Tyler does have a bit of a confessional about how, she just talked about how she would vote for Kyle at a final tribal council. For me, this kind of does seem like a little bit like it could be trying to lead us towards that being an option, but I found it kind of out of place. Like, maybe there's a little bit of foreshadowing towards either Kyle making it to the end or Tyler even voting for Kyle. But it doesn't really make full sense to me, but it just seems a little bit out of place, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too, because, I know we've talked about before about Lily having so many great confessionals, and whether, that was foreshadowing her being at the end. And I kind of looked at it at the time as like them highlighting her claiming things that wasn't her move. But given what's happened this episode, I think there's probably more credit to like Lily's confessional so far being more winner edit than not. And yeah, finally introducing the Kyle confessionals does make you, and we did talk about on the last pod how we kind of felt like Kyle would be someone that people would potentially take to the end because he's not being strategic. So it was weird to hear Tyler talk about he would win because she's such a strategic player.
Also, as well, I mean, some of the things that Tyler did say about Kyle, Like, yes, he's a challenge beast, but yes, he seems to be like really well liked. But I mean, everyone gets along with everyone there, so I think that's a little bit of a cop out reasoning for it. And does Cole have win equity at the end, or was that Tyler just trying to, to diminish her threat level by saying, "Oh yeah, she would vote for Cole at the end" by putting a target on him? I mean, I personally, from what we've seen, I think that seemed like some of the reasons for putting a target on Cole was a little bit of a stretch from what we've seen.
I just want to get to this little comment. Matt Constant says he'll be watching Kyle and Lily this week to see if they align. Does this seem like a likely outcome for the next episode?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like both Andy and Lily playing the idol and Andy making the call to blindside Tyler does put a bit of a target on their back. I can kind of see, I mean, Lily and Liam will continue to work together, and Kyle actually, remember the very first episode, he very quickly pulled Liam for that mystery reward or whatever it was. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kyle starts to work with Liam and Lily potentially to blindside maybe Nick, or because he did say Nick Sly. So I think he might be in on that. Yeah, I kind of feel like that's a threesome that we need to watch carefully, because I wouldn't be surprised if they team up.
We'll move on. We'll move on to a key moment in the episode. Obviously, Tyler must be away giving a confessional, and Andy instantly pulls them all in and says, "Look, Tyler's playing a great game. Basically, she's been in control of all these decisions. Basically, if I'm out, she's getting my vote. So let's just take the shot now." And this does seem like a bit of we don't hear much from Andy. So again, we still don't really get a straight up confessional from her on the decision. And Tyler did seem to think that Andy was her option at the end, someone that she would sit next to in the final. So this is definitely a big blindside on Tyler.
Yeah.
What do you think of Andy's big move here, James? Mel.
Oh, James. So I did kind of it was interesting in Tyler's confessional, because she did talk about taking Andy to the end, but that she thought that she would be able to be able to beat her because she's pulled off 2 blindsides, and that was Andy's point when she was selling it to the others, that she's pulled off 2 great blindsides. She's been leading the group, and that she's got a really good resume. Just saying. And Liam calls it out as such a, that's a huge move, which quite obviously it is. I get it. I mean, us as a group, you mean Mel and James, have all talked about how strong Tyler was playing, and that someone needed to blindside Tyler, or that she would win in the end. So we all know that that's what would definitely have happened had she stayed in the game. It is harsh when one of your closest contacts takes you out. So yeah, that's definitely something I wouldn't like to see happen, but I get it. It's part of the game.
Yeah, on that topic too. What was I? So Liam was, when Andy pitched the idea, Liam is he doesn't really seem too keen on it.
He laughs. He's laughing, Aston.
First Andy pitches it to him, and he's kind of he's consistent enough for them to think that he's on board. And then when Lily is saying, "Look, I'm playing my idol, no matter what, they're going to put their votes on me. Let's just vote out Tyler," he shuts it down immediately and says,
"Yeah,
I want Nick or Kyle."
Yeah, you're right. In the conversation, in the strat chat he's having with Lily, where Lily is saying, "You get the votes on me, and I'll chuck a vote on either Tyler or Kyle. I don't care. Like, as if you would be saying that. Like, obviously, if you're going to pick from one of the two, you're going to go for Tyler because she's much stronger in the game. But when Andy pitches it, Liam's laughing, but Nick looks nervous to me. So yeah, and you're right. In the strat chat, he does say I would prefer Kyle or Nick, which, you know, to him, from Liam's point of view, obviously they're stronger at challenges, so he sees them as a threat to stop him winning immunity. But Tyler is a much stronger player, so she would beat him in the end. So it's not the best strategy to think. I think Lily was on the right path.
Yeah, my only reasoning for potentially Liam wanting to go down that route is Tyler's obviously a massive shield. He has been kind of playing that little, you know, quiet, hide in the back type, you know, play down his threat level type of game. So having her around, I do think he mentions he wants to have shields in his pre-game intro. So that's my only reasoning for him to want to keep Tyler. And I'll talk about it a little bit later after the vote on what I think about Tyler being the target this vote. But yeah, that kind of brings us to the end of that pre-tribal scramble. Lily and Tyler kind of seem to be the options.
Before you move on, I think we touched on it before, but it was, I found it like, you know, after Kyle's confessional, it was him being part of that strategy chat. We just focus on, you could see his cogs turning when they were talking about like the threats, and he actually uses the word hierarchy. I was like, what do you guys think about him like learning on the fly? Because clearly he's not a big Survivor fan. So for him to be like part of this core Rogers tribe without the strategy, but trying to keep up with, you know, 2 or 3 pretty solid strategic players, he's just learning as he goes.
What do you think, James?
What's going on in Geelong today?
Yeah, like obviously it's really hard going in blind. You know, you kind of you want to try to take a book out of Alex's thing and do a bit of studying beforehand if you don't know, just so you've got like a bit of a grip on, you know, some of the strategy and what people will attempt to do. Like he does seem to be getting it slowly, but it's an even more condensed game than it usually is. So you really actually don't have any time to try to, you know, understand. If it was a 2-day game, by the second day he might actually understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But I think he's really going to run out of time in this game.
Yeah, and I mean he did pinpoint the hierarchy very accurately in his one and only confessional. So I guess props to him.
Yeah. We'll move on to the vote. It's pissing down at this point.
It was saturated. I felt like I was in Canberra all over again in that vote 3, where we were just saturated and had an umbrella over Hayley and it was running all over me.
Yeah, you look at Nick and his shirt is actually
sticking to
attached to his skin. He's soaked. You know, props to Sam. He gritted it too. He sat in the rain with everyone else. Yeah. Sure, he gets a bit of umbrella because, you know, they're VIPs at this point.
Well, and they're eating brownies. They don't want the brownies to get wet. Like, come on.
Like, they're freshly baked.
Cup of tea and some brownies. Like, I'd be on that jury.
So, yeah, Sam, you know, asks his normal lines of questions. Lily has to play up that she's in big trouble just to keep, you know, some semblance of, you know, it's not going to be her. I don't think she's really sure either that it's not going to be her.
No, I mean, she said that in her confessional too, that she wasn't 100% if they were setting her up. And I get it. Like, she's gone one round without playing the idol, which is a hard thing to do. And she kind of feels like potentially they could be setting her up. I think she gets the strategy behind it. It's still a risk to know that you're vulnerable and not play it. So I do get why she played it. Like, it's a hard call.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, it's all well and good with hindsight to be like, no, Lily, don't play it. But you know, they'll tell her anything she wants to hear to make sure that she feels safe. You know, every time she's around, they're going to be saying, yeah, it's this person, it's this person. It's, you know, I would probably play it. I don't really know if I would be able to hold my nerves in that situation.
Yeah, I will say it would be absolutely like super ruthless if you did plan on like voting for her and still set her up to say, oh, but you know, we don't want Tyler to think that you think you're safe, so go out in the pouring rain and look for an idol.
Yeah, that's true.
Imagine doing that and you were still targeting her, but you just want her to feel comfortable enough, so that's how you strategize for her to do it.
Might have to keep that in the bank.
That'd be super cruel.
Might have to keep that one saved up.
Yeah, I know. I did think that.
Also, James's internet is completely fried at this point. He is probably not going to be back in the podcast tonight.
Yeah, it's not coping at all.
But
he's listening.
Yeah.
Thanks, James.
So we get to the vote. Tyler obviously votes for Lily. That was what she set out to do. Lily plays her idol, and when the votes are read, we get two for Tyler, one for Lily, which is obviously blocked. We get a third vote for Tyler, and that's enough to get a voter out of the game.
Yeah, sadly.
Yeah, obviously super sad for Tyler. She played she tried so hard, and she was doing a lot of things. She was really trying to make moves and pulled off a lot of big moves in like the short span that she did have.
Yeah.
So it will be sad to miss such a strong player of the game.
I mean, yeah, she pretty much, along with Nick, organized those two blindsides, and they were great. They were great blindsides. Like, those people had no idea. Like, I mean, Alex was still the funniest one because that was Alex. But, the Sean one was fairly obvious. We could all see that coming a mile off. But, yeah, the Alex one was pretty brilliant. But then that being said, like, Alex was so I think he just was so keen to think he was going to survive. So, yeah, no, she played a great game. She was very strategic, one of the most strategic players out of all the cast, and a really unlikely pairing with Nick, I thought, which I actually enjoyed seeing them work together. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
bit of a duo of the season, maybe.
Yeah.
So with that, I think we can just bring in Tyler and we can pick her brain if you want to take the lead on the interview, Mel.
Yeah, I'm just winging it.
That's all right. That's what we always do.
Tyler!
Hey, Tyler.
Hey, Mel. Hey, Aston. How are you guys?
Good. How are
Good.
you?
Doing good.
How did you feel watching yourself get voted out? It's never a fun experience.
It's not, but I was really proud of my game. So rewatching it back was just reliving, knowing that I was proud of the game that I played. So I wasn't too stressed watching it back. Nah.
Yeah, you played a great game and you should be proud. You were a standout right from the very start. I mean, you got 3 winner picks from the 4 of us. And we had very limited information. So, we're all a little bit gutted that you got voted out, but I get it. Like, as I'm sure you would as a strategic player, like, if you had got to the end, you would have won. So you can't blame them for targeting you. But I will say, coming from someone who appears to be a really close friend, like, how did that feel when you watched it back?
Oh, like, are you talking about Andy?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, because I didn't realize what had happened at the time. It wasn't until like afterwards where we got to debrief, so I could actually understood what happened. Because I didn't realize it was Andy that really orchestrated that.
Yeah.
Looking back now, I can understand why. Because, like, yeah, as you guys would have seen from the bios, like, we're really good friends. And I probably didn't do enough work to try and keep her on side in the game because I had that friendship to rely on.
Right. Yeah.
Little did I know that she was gunning for me, partly because not just that she thought I was a strategic player, but we'd played a game previously, like a month before that game, and I had like backstabbed her in the game, just like a plain board game. But I think she held on to the fact that I couldn't do that. And so she wanted to make sure she did it to me first this time. And I didn't think that she could hold that as tightly as she did. But I think that was what sparked her to try and get everyone to get me out. Then, if not the next vote, probably.
Wow. And I have to say, I didn't pick it up when I watched it the first time, but I rewatched tonight, earlier tonight. And it was the first time where I kind of got the feeling like maybe you thought you could be in trouble. Did you have any inkling that it was happening?
Yeah. So the editing of this episode is done really, really well to the viewers. The storyline that's played out is really beautifully told by the editing. But I was actually the first confessional straight after the challenge. So Andy's escapade was the first thing everyone heard. And so going into any conversation that happened after that, that was a thought they had in the front of their minds. And for me, the dead giveaway was Kyle. He is such an honest person. Like, if you met him in real life, he's so honest. And like, he, anytime you wanted to vote away or you wanted him to vote with you in a way that was against what he thought was the right thing to do, you could tell that he didn't want to do it by the look on his face. And so stratting with him every other play and then come to this time and he couldn't look me in the eyes, I was like, that I knew what was up when Kyle wouldn't talk to me.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense because you could, as I said, I didn't pick it up on the first watch because I'm usually too busy chatting. But yeah, when I watched it again, I was just like, oh, I think she knew. So yeah, I'm glad you clarified that.
Yeah, it was hard because like everyone else was similar. Like Andy's a good liar, so I didn't pick it up from her. But just even the way I was stratting with other people, like when I would throw around names with them, they wouldn't cling to it like they used to. They'd be like, oh, yeah, that sounds good, rather than, oh, that's awesome, let's do it. Yeah, so you can just tell.
Damn.
We do have a comment here from Matt. He's saying, it was sad to see Tyler go, but I suspect her strategic mind was seen as a bigger threat than she realised. Even though I think you did kind of realise.
Yeah, if you saw my exit interview.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
I think there's a few times where you're talking to yourself and you're like, oh shit, I need to chill a little bit because I'm really starting to put a target on my back.
Yeah. Can I say that I think it was, I'm not 100% which episode it was. It was like maybe 1 or 2 episodes ago where you're basically stratting with yourself in a confessional. It reminded me so much of like when Sam narrated himself at that challenge, but you just see you were challenging yourself in every different direction. It was so great to actually watch, and it's kind of what I would imagine my mind does when I was working through strategies, but like you were verbalizing it. It was such a great moment to see how you think and strategize. It was great.
Yeah, that moment was funny because like I up until that point we hadn't had a chance to do any strat because we were on the winning team. So it was like the first opportunity I could really just go with everything, and it just happened to be in front of a camera. So great.
Yeah.
Without giving anything away, how did it feel when you got to jury? You know, like seeing Alex, seeing Sean. You know, how were they with you on arrival?
Yeah, I think because it happens in really quick succession. Like these episodes aren't a day apart. I think the hurt is still really, really fresh for them. it wasn't hurt though. They were like, oh, that was really cool. Can you talk through what actually happened? Because you don't know what you don't see. And so for them, it's just like, as soon as you walk into jury, the first thing you have is just a bunch of questions about like why you did what you did. And I think once I explained it, like, I love those guys and I think that they respect games. So for them to understand why I did what I did was,
yeah,
I think
that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Just quickly, we do have a question from Matt. Watching it back, would you have maybe dialed it back a little bit, had a little bit of less of a say in the strategy per se?
Yeah, man, I talk so much. I like watching back. I'm like, such a talker. Anyway, I actually like reflected on this. I think the reason I was so upfront, well, you see it in my intro that I'm like, I want to make sure I'm chill to begin with because I know I can go hard too fast.
Yeah.
But I think the reason I felt I could in this game was because I knew everyone, pretty much everyone. And so I knew I didn't have to try and be quiet because I knew everyone knew that I was strategic. So I felt like I had permission to do that because they would question it if I didn't. And because I knew the people in the relationships, I think that's how I gained the control I did have so quickly, was because I knew who I was working with and I knew how they worked with each other. But yeah, if I could play again, I would love to play a quieter game, but I think it would have to be with people I don't know for it to work.
Yeah, I was about to ask that. Like, do you think like playing with people you know or playing with people that you don't would be, I mean, there's kind of advantages and disadvantages to both, I guess, but what would you prefer if you got to do it again? Would you like to have people that you know in the tribe, or would you like it like complete strangers?
I like the idea of complete strangers because if you know people, you can kind of rely on the friendship that you have outside of the game to give you grace for what you do inside the game. But I feel like if you have a blank slate with everyone, what you form in the game is all you have to rely on. And so it gives everyone the same starting position. So I think I'd much rather play with people I don't know.
Yeah. It would be easier and less painful if they vote you out.
Yes.
And on that note, would you play again?
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Well, not to upset Sam, but you do know that casting is open.
Open for Canberra.
Today, Sydney will be open soon. So a whole bunch of options. We'd love to see you play again.
No, I'd love to. I've started watching your seasons in Canberra, and I just watched the post-merge episode. That was wild. So if that's the kind of stuff that Canberra gets up to, that's what I'm playing. So 5 different types of idols in one move, but
I think it was 7 actually.
It was like
7. 7 from 10. There was only 3 people eligible to be voted for.
Yeah, Mal wasn't even there for it, so
taking himself out.
That's good.
Yeah. So that's probably one question that I had. So if you were to play again, like how would you manage your threat level better this time around so that you are less visible? Like how would you play that?
Yeah, I think I would let others do the talking. I've like watching back, I see myself like being the one to drive a conversation or summarize other people's thoughts, which I'm like, oh, doing that wasn't a good idea because it makes you sound loud. So I think you can play a super strategic game, but quietly enough that you're not as much of a threat for it, which is exactly what Nick is doing. Oh my gosh, Nick's game is. Have you noticed, like, he's making the same moves I am, even before we talk, like we have the same ideas. But when it comes to his questions at Tribal, he's always like, oh, but I'm not strategic.
Yeah.
Like he's not.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I'd want to play. I feel like that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, he's really doing well at, putting all the pressure on someone else and not him. He kind of just comes off as like, just saying funny stuff, but he's really, you can tell he's switched on and he's making the right moves.
Yeah, well, Kyle and both Kyle and Lily are completely onto him, so Interesting to see where his game goes. But, credit where credit is due, because most of us had him as first boot, and we really didn't want to see him as first boot. And to be fair, I just felt like he had that, and he does have it. He has that like cheeky larrikin nature. Like in so many ways, he reminds me a little bit about Luke Toki. He's got that that charisma. He's really funny. And he kind of has that magnetism, which I could see why people are drawn to him and wanting to chat. But yeah, he is managing to look a little bit less of a threat than what he may be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got a question here from Sam. Was there something that we didn't see that you wish we had, or something that you were super proud of? I guess you got to answer both.
Yeah, I can. Super proud of the whole game. But something that I wish people had seen, there was a moment when Andy and I were walking up to the reward challenge with me, Andy, and Sean just like ducked back to get his bag. And I like quickly give this like insane little intense conversation with me and Andy where I'm like, don't believe anything I'm about to say this entire lunch. This is all a show. We're getting Sean. And she said to me a few weeks ago that I lied so well that going into tribal, she had to check with me. She was like, are we actually doing a split vote on Lily, or are we still going on? It was just like, it was a cool moment that I felt proud that I could actually trick someone who was in on the trick to believe it.
Yeah.
Was that caught on camera, or?
No, that moment wasn't, because it was kind of in a moment where people were gathering things, getting ready to move into the next thing. And you don't realize when you're playing the game, you don't really realize when the cameras are and aren't there. So I didn't think about it needing to be a moment that got captured. I was just like, oh, she needs to know this is a lie. And so I just, you don't get to see it, but it was a funny little moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been epic.
Definitely. How did you feel like, because I know that you had a relationship with Liam in the past, how did you like feel going into it? Like, you're clearly friends, but did you feel like both of you would trust each other, or did you think that you would be working against each other?
Yeah, so Liam and I have a long-standing friendship before and after our relationship, and a lot of it is based on playing a lot of board games together, and in different groups and friends. So we both know how each other's strategic minds work, and it's something that we have in common. And so I think that is why, I think you were talking earlier about why he didn't want to get rid of me, because he knew he could work with me.
Yeah.
And like, same reason, like I started dropping Kyle's name. Yeah, that was a contingency plan to 100%. Be like, oh, if not Lily, maybe Kyle. Like, I tell him I'll vote for him. Hopefully that'll put a bit more of a target on him. Because I wanted to keep Liam around and he wanted to keep me, because we knew, even though we both knew we had the capacity and maybe intention to backstab, we know how each other play. So it's easier, the devil you do know than the devil you don't kind of deal.
Mel can relate.
Yeah, definitely. It's my James and I relationship. Yeah, you can count them as a number, definitely.
Exactly.
Were you surprised by any of the cast mates and how they played?
Surprised, like, that they played as well as they did?
Yeah, either that they did or didn't. Like, some of them obviously have experience and knowledge of the game, but then some of them don't, but appear to be doing relatively, like Alex, for example, like said he hadn't watched a lot of Survivor yet. Like, he was probably one of the most strategic players of the season outside of yourself, Nick, Lily. Were there anything that like that along those lines that you were surprised by?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting knowing each of these individuals, but then watching the games they play with the other people that they're playing with. Like, for example, I really wish I had a chance to play with Haley and Georgia in particular, because like Georgia and I would have made an alliance straight off the bat. So that would have changed things. So I was surprised that when I saw her, I didn't get the opportunity to do that in the game. Or like, I was surprised a lot by Nick and Lily not having known them, but having like assumptions and expectations going in the game, and then Nick coming out with the strat that he did have, I was like, oh, that's really surprising. And that's why we formed that alliance that you can see. So that Kyle did surprise me a lot. Like he's playing a really subtle game, but you can't really see it because it's so subtle. Liam surprises me a lot because I thought he would play a lot harder than he did. And I think that there's so much of his strat that people don't see because it's so subtle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah,
that's the game that I keep telling James he should play, but he needs
not
to be
capable.
less subtle. I don't know that that's a vibe that the Orca could do, but
yeah, you can definitely tell Liam is trying to do that. You play it down, wait till the very end, pull out, you know. Whether he can do it, I'm not sure, but I can see where it is. Like, you know, I thought he was going to be a bit more loud and aggressive with his play, but I think he's playing a smarter game for someone who wants to win.
Yeah. And who, like, because we really haven't seen much from Andy. We kind of knew where her relationships were, but the other one is Kyle. So, like, who is Kyle close to? Like, I mean, outside of just Rogers, like, was he just like focused on Orange Strong? Was that like the vibe you got from him?
Yeah, I think that's where it started for him because he had a few friends. Like, he knew most people who played. So like Sean, myself, Andy, Liam, Georgia, like we're all in a network of friends. But I think with the Rogers Strong, I feel like he's not thought about playing the game before. So he would have clung to the first alliance that he felt part of, which is why like he would have felt like difficult to vote out Sean because he's one of his mates and because he was in that first alliance that was formed. So I don't think Kyle, like, so for example, like I could talk with Liam and be like, let's flip. And I could expect him to be like, oh, okay, let's consider that. Whereas for Kyle, I think the idea of flipping wasn't something that sat well with him.
Okay. Yeah.
But he's definitely like, there's parts where you see him throw out names randomly. You go, oh, Kyle, okay. Like, good, let's go. But it's interesting because if what you say doesn't match with him, he just like doesn't want to do it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because he's such an honest guy.
Oh. Yeah, so I know that you're friends with Sam. So how did you all, because you all seem to like know each other. So how did you all like meet as a group?
Yeah, so there's like heaps of little networks. So there's like myself, Haley, and Liam went to high school together. So there's like a little group there. But a few of us do go to a church together. So we run like a youth camp. So we're used to doing fun games like that. Like a lot of the crew have a lot of experience setting up physical games like what you saw on the show, and planning and organizing like structure of like programs. And like the filmography crew we had was like friends from church and then friends of friends and then like videographers who knew each other through weddings.
Right.
So yeah, it's just this little community of people that formed, and Sam brought them all together for this one vision of Brisbane Survivor.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so I was just like thinking, you're going to crew, right? And are you part of the creative process? Are you helping Sam like organize stuff for season 2? Like, how are you? Yeah. How deep is your involvement? I want to know everything.
I don't know. No, I'm really keen to
just prying.
No, it's fine. I'm really keen to be involved as much or as little as Sam will let me.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Sounds good. Well, hopefully if Sam ever gets back to me about what he wants me to do, I'll get to spend some more time with you guys because I'd be keen to help too. So, yeah, I think season 2 would be great. So I know that they've open casting already, right? Yep. So that will be interesting to see who they get. Like, do you think of people that you want to recommend for season 2? Like, have you got more friends outside of this group that you reckon should give a go?
Heck yes. Yes, all the time. even my family, like my mom definitely wants to play. Any friend. I even talked to a friend who I hadn't seen in ages, like at a wedding last weekend, and he was talking about his job. He's in IT, and I'm like, oh, your brain works like someone who's a Survivor fan. And I said, do you like Survivor? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, season 2, man. Let's go. So yeah, I'm plugging it wherever I can. It's going to be awesome.
And what advice would you give someone who is lucky enough to play season 2?
Same advice Sean gave last week. If you don't know the game, start to know the game. Even like what Alex did, watching a highlights reel before coming on was enough for him to be able to like actually play the game, which was awesome. But if you are a player of the game, I'd recommend like picking the game you want to play before going in. Like, don't just go in and hope for the best, but go, I want to play this kind of game. And then like mentally make sure that you continue to play that game the whole way through. Because I just broke down and was like, I'm just going to go full strat when I wanted to try and play quiet.
So execute the plan. Stick with the plan.
You spoke about your mum before. How was she after the episode?
Oh, she's wrecked. She's like the live chat on Facebook. She's all over that thing, and she's I had kept it secret from her. One of the only secrets I've ever kept from her, and so
you want to get that honest reaction from them.
Yeah, exactly.
I did tell her in the comments of one of the chat threads that on last week's chat thread that she should apply. So fingers crossed she does.
We'll see. Either cast or crew. I think she should just be part of it. She'd love it. James, question.
James. Poor James's internet. He would be dying not being able to ask you questions.
He did say, finally I get to meet Tyler.
Yeah.
Well, you don't. Sorry, buddy.
Oh, goodness me. I just like, I think I'm out of questions, but like, I think you know that we were a big fan of you on this season. Like you were a standout from very early on in the season. I'm gutted that you're no longer there, that we don't get to watch you, but I totally get why they targeted you, and that's respect because you were playing such a great game. So I'm devo that you're gone, but I think you did an awesome job. And when you finish watching our season, we should chat again because I don't want to give away any spoilers, but when you finish watching my season, we should definitely catch up.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Mel.
I will let you go, Tyler.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate
it. Was good chatting to you.
Good chatting, a great game.
Have a good night.
See you
too. Bye. What a queen.
Definitely.
Yeah. We will definitely see her again, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to get James to share his award in the chat, so he's still a part, somewhat. Let's get on to our outplay, outlast, outwit. I said that in the wrong way, but sorry. For me, I've got outlast. I've given it to this person before, but I just think his game really revolves around the whole outlast aspect, and that's Liam. I think it's just like time and time again, he just squeaks and squeaks and squeaks. He's like on the edge. He's been on the edge for weeks now. And, when I thought he was definitely going to go this episode, he wins a immunity idol and saves himself another week. And I just think the whole game, how he's, playing down his threat level, he's keeping quiet, not talking too much, but doing enough to stay in everyone's good books. I think he deserves that Outlast award.
Yeah. I had outplay. Did I have outplay?
Yeah,
James had outplay. That's right. Yeah, outplay. I can't really remember James's criteria. I'm not going to lie. It's been a busy week. But, I'm just going to give it to Andy because, she did orchestrate what has to be the blind side of the season. To basically, throw her friend under the bus and set up a blindside against Tyler, who, you know, had she have got to the end, she 100% would have won. There's no like question of that. So I think that like the way that she played that, she wasn't. I mean, she was kind of forceful, but not too forceful. Like she pretty much just stated her case and made them all realize, like, at the end of the day, she will win if she gets to the end. So yeah, I'm giving it to Andy.
Yeah, well deserved. Yeah. I'm thinking back now, when she does, she actually, she plays it off really well. She does the whole.
She puts it as a suggestion, not as a. Yeah, and she's like, what has anyone, like, rather than say I think, her vocabulary is actually really good for a player. She asks, has anyone thought about voting for Tyler, and do they think that would be a good move, because she has orchestrated 2 blindsides. She has kind of been leading the camp and like, yeah, she's the leader of the group and she's got a really good resume. So she's not actually saying, I think we should do this. She's saying, has anyone thought about it? And this is what her game is. So aren't we kind of silly not to do that? You know, the way she puts it was actually quite good.
Yeah. I agree with you. Definitely big props for Andy, that episode. Let's get into some predictions. What do you think is going to happen next episode or leading into the end?
So it's interesting because I know last time I kind of did point out that I thought people would take Kyle to the end because he wasn't a strategic threat. But I kind of, after some of the comments and hearing a little bit more from him, I do feel like what I said before, I really feel like he has clocked on to Nick being a threat and Nick being a little bit sneaky. So, and I think that there is an existing relationship with Liam. So if he's going to separate from that orange tribe, I feel like the person that he would probably do that with is Liam. And Liam, I see now that in particular Tyler is gone, I do feel like he's going to stick with Lily. So I think that those 3 could potentially pull off, maybe a bit of a blindside. Maybe they work against, say, an Andy or a Nick, because I think they've both put themselves out there as a threat after this last round.
Yeah, I rate that prediction. I think that's I think that's a great move for most involved, especially Liam. I think if Liam can position himself with Kyle, who seems loyal enough to potentially even take Liam to the final with him, and Lily, I think Liam could really pull it out at the end if everything goes right for him.
I don't know what you would win against Lily.
I think it's close.
Yeah, it is close. It's who speaks better on the day.
Yeah, and I think the people that know Liam will respect the fact that he was able to downplay his threat level so well.
Yeah.
Whilst, Lily kind of has to start from zero and convince everyone that she has been doing things, Liam can kind of,
I mean, I just keep coming back to the edit, and like you pointed out, you felt like they were trying to give her a winner edit, even though at the end of the day, I can't remember what it was now, but like she's claiming it as her move, but it was happening already. So that's the only thing that I kind of wonder how that's going to play out, and whether that is more of a foreshadowing of her victory as opposed to a Liam, because we haven't really seen a lot in the edit on him to show him as a winner. So
that is true.
Yeah.
We'll just quickly sit back to James's outwit. His outwit today goes to Lily. Controversial call not giving it to Andy, but I think Lily ensured she had all bases covered with her idol getting everyone to try to put the votes on her to play it to get rid of Tyler. Even though that didn't happen, she was just as instrumental as Andy to oust the biggest threat in the game. So, you know, James is giving credit to Lily for that vote, which I can respect.
I mean, she was legitimately organising that with Liam. They were jumping back between like Kyle or, but yeah, I kind of feel like she was saying, yes, it should be Tyler, whereas Liam was trying to like maybe get it on to Nick or Kyle. So yeah.
Okay, for my prediction, I'm going to say that this move by Andy, bold and amazing, and I love people that are willing to just, you know, throw a move at the wall. But I think this is going to really backfire for Andy next episode. I think she's put herself into a position where she really doesn't have that many allies. I think Nick can go either way. I think Kyle can go either way. I think Lily and Liam can stay strong. I think everyone's kind of now vying for Lily and Liam's vote, I feel it's like they're all scrambling. You know, I don't think those three oranges will work together from this point forward.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I did kind of feel like, as much as it was a great blindside, I did feel like it was one or, you know, at least one step too early, because exactly for those reasons. She doesn't seem to have had the same strong connection with Nick. No one like I mean, we really don't know much about Kyle, which was why I was really trying to find out tonight from Tyler, like, what's this guy about? Like, who is he working with? But yeah, I rate that. Like, I do feel like she's exposed herself, and other people definitely have way more options than what she does. But I'm also really curious to see how the siblings are gonna like play the game out. Like, you know, there's been such a focus on their rivalry, so I'm really keen to see which one of them turn on each other. Like, it's gonna happen, we know it's gonna happen, but which one's gonna get which? Like, I'm dying to see, because every time Nick does something to Lily, like that grin that he gets, it's TV gold. Like, seriously.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm keen to see what happens going forward. I think we have 2 more episodes, maybe.
Yeah, I think 2. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited. Everything's starting to ravel up now. Well, just quickly, I mean, I don't really understand. No, I do understand, but we'll just quickly flash James's memes for the week, and I'll try to explain them, even though. So the first one, I fear no man, but that Kyle, it scares me. I don't know if James was here.
I don't know. Like, is he just like saying Kyle's a threat? Like, I mean, I'm not in the mind of
maybe
James.
Maybe that's what it is. The next one is Tyler trying to figure out how to reduce her threat level, and that is pretty accurate, I feel.
Yeah, I feel like that could also be used for when Tyler did that mega strat that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, 100%. This one is Andy when she puts on her poncho in preparation for tribal council in the rain, finally inner peace.
Yeah.
She does seem very chill.
But also, that's the same smile after, like, she convinces them all to go and look for the idol. She does this direct look to camera, like, oh my God, like, I've just set my friend up and now they're all running in the rain and I did that. And that was the exact smile that she had. It was great.
And then the last one is a little bit of an Among Us meme of Andy stabbing Tyler in the back.
Ouch.
And then I think we'll wrap up there.
Actually, let's just go through funny moments. Have you had, what was your funny moment of the episode?
My funny moment. Let me see. It's a little bit of a small one. But it was like Tyler's explaining how Kyle could win because he hasn't really done anything. And she's like to Nick, oh, but we did backstab Sean. And then they're like, oh, no, we all backstab Sean. And then Nick's like, yeah, team backstab.
I do laugh at that.
That was, I got another one, but I feel like you've got it, so I'll let you go.
Yeah. Well, there's two. I had two. I couldn't decide. So there's one in Tyler's confessional where she's talking about staying. She says that they're going to stay Rogers strong without Sean, of course, which made me giggle so hard. But there was one at Tribal Council, which, oh my God, I laughed, but at the same time, I always cried when Sam was talking about the Sean blindside, and as he talks about it, he like looks over to Sean and he looks so sad and wistful about Sean's vote out because remember they're best mates. But then Alex is sitting right next to him and just puts his hand on his leg like it's all right, mate.
Yeah. I like that was what I was gonna say. That was gold.
Yeah, they were my two funny moments.
Yeah, all right. That was good.
Cool. Awesome. All right, well, I think that's everything. So we will wait till the next episode drops Wednesday, 7:30.
Yep.
We'll see who is it going to be, Andy, or will it be Nick, or will it be someone else that is next on the chopping block? We will have to wait and find out.
All right. I'll see you later, Mel. See you later, everyone.